Thank you for joining us. We are here to honor the civil rights workers who gave their lives for justice and equality: James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. They left the Western College campus in the Freedom Summer of 1964 to fight discrimination and register Black voters in Mississippi. They were murdered by Klansmen. Their sacrifice accelerated the movement for civil rights. Today, we name the lounge spaces in 3 residence halls on Western campus to honor their lives and elevate their example. We welcome their family and friends to this occasion. I also welcome and thank the Western College Alumni Association for their unwavering support and collaboration. The leaders of Miami University's Associated Student Government initiated this recognition in 2019. I am grateful for the leadership of President Jalen Perkins, Vice President Dante Rossi, and ASG Executive Cabinet and Senators. ASG Secretary of Diversity and Inclusion, Brandon Small, and members of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee proposed naming the lobbies. ASG won the support of the Miami University Board of Trustees, the President's Executive Cabinet, and the Western College Alumni Association. Thank you to the current ASG President, Chaney Kamara, Vice President Jessica Von Zastro, and Secretary of Diversity and Inclusion, Brandon Small, and the entire ASG for planning this event. We admire your dedication to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion on our campus. The training of more than 800 volunteers at Western College for Women in the summer of 1964 is now part of our heritage at Miami University. We celebrate it with our Freedom Summer Memorial and our annual Freedom Summer of '64 Award. Now we add the names of James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner to the common areas of Beechwoods, Hillcrest, and Stonebridge residence halls in recognition of their sacrifice and to inspire all those who walk these halls. Black history is American history. It is Miami's history. It is punctuated with the stories of people like Nellie Craig Walker and the Freedom Summer volunteers. They acted with love and honor in their time. The work is unfinished. We have unprecedented opportunities in our time to advance truth and reconciliation, equality, justice, and unity. Our community, students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends, is dedicated to make clear our vision of inclusive excellence as One Miami. Today, we advance that goal by honoring the names of James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner on our Western campus for the generations yet to come. Love and honor.
Hi, my name is Rena Murphy, and I'm an Andrew Goodman Foundation Vote Everywhere ambassador here on Miami's campus. The Vote Everywhere program is a national, nonpartisan civic engagement movement of student leaders and university partners. I'm here as a reminder that the work of Freedom Summer and the legacies of Chaney, Schwerner, and Goodman are not a thing of the past. Voter suppression and intimidation are still widely used to marginalize Black voters and Black voices today. Common tactics include voter ID laws, voter purges, felony disenfranchisement, gerrymandering, and more. I ask that everyone not only honor the legacies of Chaney, Schwerner, and Goodman, but to live their legacies as well, to stand up for what is right and answer when called, remembering that Andrew Goodman was a student when he answered his. This past semester, over 50 Miami students lived their legacies by volunteering to register and inform their peers. Together, we registered over 300 new voters. The stories of Chaney, Schwerner, and Goodman represented in our halls prove that we are still impacted by our history. The Freedom Summer of 1964 was an assertion that Black voters and Black lives matter. It is my hope that as students spend time in these lobbies, we remember not only their namesakes, but that yesterday, today, and tomorrow, Black voters and Black lives matter.
In the fall of 1964, I had just graduated from college in the spring and was about to enter into college in Ohio, about 60 miles away from Miami University. So I have a deep love and affection for Ohio, where I went to school, engineering school, for 5 years. Only a couple of weeks before my freshman year started, my older brother of 3 years, Andrew Goodman's body was found alongside those of two of his civil rights co-workers bodies, Michael Schwerner and James Chaney, dead, because we found out many days later, 44 days later, why the Ku Klux Klan murdered them. And it was basically because they believed every person had a right to vote, every person had the right to equal access to the ballot box. And the Ku Klux Klan, the white supremacist and terrorist majority who terrorized for hundreds of years African Americans, did not want to share the liberties that our ideals of our democracy uphold. So today, I'm very honored, President Crawford and your faculty and your student body, that you are memorializing the names of Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Schwerner by dedicating their memory to these three buildings, these leadership and energy environmental design buildings, LEED buildings, today. So I'd like to say that the idea of social justice and civil and human rights is much broader than just a legal concept or even a moral concept, but it reaches to every aspect of our life. And it's not surprising that Miami University, the women's college campus of Miami University, would memorialize these men because you have a close relationship with Freedom Summer 1964, in that all of the volunteers for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee were trained on your campus. That's 57 years ago. And you stood up for justice, for democracy, when other colleges, such as Berea College, turned down the opportunity to train the students, even though Berea's in Kentucky and closer to Mississippi, because their alumni were afraid. And that's not uncommon throughout our history, to say the right thing, to do the right thing due to intimidation and fear. But we can't fear the ideals of upholding our democracy. And Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Schwerner, and Miami University, and your predecessor college names were not afraid. And you stood up when others wouldn't. Now, the other thing that's not coincidental about Miami University, in my opinion, is that you have a long history of upholding environmental justice too. Look at the buildings that you're building. I was on your campus 6 years ago, coming up on 7, for the 50th anniversary of Freedom Summer, when you had at Miami University a very big event. And I noticed that there were banners all over your campus saying you'd installed 700 geothermal wells for heating and air conditioning. Very, very environmental friendly. And we know that if we don't protect our environment, the people who are most adversely affected are underserved people in society in general, whether it's a racial group, ethnic group of underserved individuals, or poor people globally. And not attending to the social justice activities of upholding our environment and protecting it is just as bad as not upholding our legal and civil rights social justices. So I really appreciate, I'm honored that you would memorialize the names of our families. We thank you, and we will look forward to all the great work that you do at Miami University for social justice in every regard: civil, human, environmental. Thank you.
Andrew Goodman, a college student and Freedom Summer volunteer, was enrolled at Queens College in New York. He was one of the 3 people murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi by members of the Ku Klux Klan on June 21, 1964. In 1964, Andrew applied for and was accepted as a volunteer to work on the Freedom Summer project. Andrew left New York to train and learn about civil rights strategies at Western College for Women, which is now a part of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. Andrew Goodman would depart the Freedom Summer training traveling to Mississippi with James Chaney and Michael Schwerner. He, along with Chaney and Schwerner, were murdered on June 21, 1964.
Thank you for asking me to participate in the Freedom Summer dedication of the dormitories on the Western College campus of Miami University. You've invited me to speak about Michael Schwerner, who was known to his many friends and family as Mickey. Mickey was 24 years old when he was killed by members of the Ku Klux Klan in Neshoba County, Mississippi. We had gone to the state in January 1964 to work as field staff for COFO, the Council of Federated Organizations, which was the Mississippi Civil Rights Organization comprised of members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, and the NAACP. We were assigned to work out of Meridian in the 4th Congressional District. Shortly after our arrival, we met James Chaney, a young black man native to Meridian, who became a close friend of Mickey's and a co-worker. Together, they worked with local church members and community groups, first in Meridian and then expanding to surrounding counties and communities in the 4th Congressional District. Ultimately, their work took them to Philadelphia, a small town and the county seat of Neshoba County. Neshoba was well known for its violence and hostility to people of color, but the extreme denial of voting rights, education, decent housing, and employment meant that black Neshoba County residents and their very few white allies had a significant stake in the movement. I think that Mickey and James were specifically targeted by the Klan because of these two men's understanding of the needs of black Mississippians to define the direction in which they would go to accomplish their goals. Mickey and James were murdered because of their ability to work with local people without taking over, so that the effort belonged to the community. The Klan could not tolerate this developing black strength. The murders which silenced the two men, along with Andrew Goodman, a Freedom Summer volunteer who had arrived in Mississippi just the day before, was meant as a message to the local people, and it resonated throughout the state and beyond. Yet, the work which had begun years before went on. It has always been the work of many and will continue well into the future until the American people and our country can accomplish the goal of respect and opportunity for all.
Michael Schwerner, activist, was one of 3 people murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi, by members of the Ku Klux Klan on June 21, 1964. He was a graduate of Cornell University. He was actively involved in civil rights activity in New York. In 1963, Schwerner volunteered to work with the Congress of Racial Equality, CORE, in Mississippi along with his wife Rita. CORE was one of the civil rights organizations along with SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the NAACP, which together were the Council of Federated Organizations, COFO, working in the state on the pressing issues of denial of civil rights. They were assigned to work out by the Meridian of Dave Dennis, the CORE state director. Michael and Rita helped to organize a community center in Meridian along with James Chaney, a local young man who worked with them. The Schwerners were the first white civil rights workers to be assigned permanently outside the state capital of Jackson. COFO intended to hold classes on voting rights and drives to register African Americans to vote in the state. COFO recruited young people from around the country to come to Mississippi in the summer of 1964 to work on voter registration, as well as establishing Freedom Schools in many locations around the state. The project was named Freedom Summer. Michael, James, and Rita attended the Freedom Summer training sessions at Western College in Oxford, Ohio, along with Mississippi civil rights workers from around the state, and summer volunteers from throughout the country. While in Ohio, the civil rights workers received word of the burning of Mount Zion United Methodist Church in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The church was to have been the site of a COFO Freedom School for the summer. Mickey, James, and Andrew left the training early to rush back to Mississippi to meet with the church members, some of whom had been badly beaten, and to investigate the beatings and the burning of the historic church. The three young men were never seen alive after they left the church. After an exhaustive search, the three men were finally found dead near Philadelphia in August.
Hello. To all concerned, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and I sincerely and humbly thank you for honoring my dad, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. What I know of my dad is that he had a servant's heart and that he lived a life of service. That was his joy and his passion. When students and others walk into the dormitories, the spaces that you all have named in honor of these three, I pray that they will remember my dad's work, and if they don't know of him, will learn of him and be inspired by his life of service and the things that he did. In the present, we are making history, and as each moment passes, we become history. And I think that the greatest way to honor those that have gone before us and that have worked for justice and equality is to continue the work that they began. We have the opportunity to do this and to continue the good. What will history say about us and the legacy that we leave and the work that we leave behind? I pray that history will speak kindly of us and good of the work that we are doing to promote justice and equality for every person. There's an inscription on my dad's grave marker that says, "There are those that are alive yet will never live, and that there are those that are dead yet will live forever." Great deeds encourage and inspire the living. I pray that you are inspired by not only my dad's work and Andrew Goodman's and Michael Schwerner's, but all of those that have come before us in the fight for equality and justice, and that you will continue the work. Again, I just want to thank you for remembering my dad and for honoring him. My dad's mother, Fanny Chaney, said to me on one occasion, "Angela," she actually called me Angel. She said, "Angel, they threw him away like he was a dog in the streets." I thank you again for remembering him and remembering the work that he did. And I think if my granny were here today, she would be very proud. I'm proud of the work that my dad did, and I'm very happy to continue his life of service. And I know that I have a servant's heart, just as he did. Again, I want to say thank you. And to everyone, I just ask that you stay safe and continue the work. Thank you.
James Chaney, activist, was one of 3 people murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi by members of the Ku Klux Klan on June 21, 1964. As a young adult, James Earl Chaney became involved in the struggle for civil and human rights. He became a member of the local chapter of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. In late 1963, At the age of 20, James Earl Chaney joined CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, and began organizing voter education classes in Meridian, Mississippi. He worked with Michael and Rita Schwerner of CORE. At the community center, the three of them started civil rights organizations in 1964, including the Congress on Racial Equality, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, organized a voter registration drive for African American residents in Mississippi. James Earl Chaney attended the Mississippi Freedom Summer Training Session at Western College with Michael and Rita Schwerner. James, along with Michael Schwerner, activist Andrew Goodman, college student and Freedom Summer volunteer, were found murdered near Philadelphia, Mississippi after they disappeared on June 21, 1964.
Greetings. My name is Anthony James, and I am the Interim Vice President of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion. Thanks so much for taking a little time out of your busy lives to celebrate this dedication with us. Before closing today's ceremony, I would like to leave you with a few words. First, to the families present with us today. Thank you so much for sharing the life and legacy of Andrew, Michael, and James. These men were principled, courageous, and compassionate, not for their own glory, but for the good and well-being of others. What a legacy. Their courage helped fuel a movement that sought to open pathways to full civic engagement to people who had long been denied that right. While this led to the tragic ending of their lives, I hope that each of you can take some amount of comfort, even if a small amount, in knowing that their sacrifice provides a powerful example of compassion towards our fellow man. For that bravery and courage, I am honored to be part of the process to dedicate a little piece of our beloved community to them, so that we may never forget their sacrifice and inspire the next generation of freedom fighters. To our students, I hope that the lives of these three men inspire you to be even more giving to the goal of recognizing the full humanity and dignity of others, especially those historically marginalized and belittled. To our community, we have a responsibility. Though we inherited the history of Western College, where the men trained before their final journey, we must continually strive to live up to what it stood for, the work it did, and the leaders it developed. Leaders who understood that thriving communities are those that realize the value in each member and provide clear pathways and access to helping them reach their full potential and be contributing members with equal standing. That's what these three men fought for. That's what these three men paid the ultimate sacrifice for. Let us be inspired to do better, to be better, to never forget, to continually urge our community to look out for all and to give all a fair chance. And now, as we close today's ceremony, please join us in this special musical selection. Thanks and have a wonderful day. Love and honor.
This song is one that I grew up singing in church as a girl and a young girl, and I later learned that it is a song that was a particular favorite of Martin Luther King. And I think it speaks volumes to those that have a servant's heart and really just want to see all humankind live a better life. If I can help somebody as I travel along, and if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody they are living wrong, yes, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Oh, if I can help somebody as I travel along, yes, then my living shall not be in vain. Thank you.